Now with UK in a better spot heading into the tournament after beating Ole Miss this week, we now welcome in Jeff Goodman from CBSSports.com to talk a little bit about how that win helped Kentucky. Jeff, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. I didn't shave for you, but at least got the sport coat and shirt. I don't look too bad.
The jacket's nice. We appreciate it. Before we get into the Ole Miss game and what remains for Kentucky, on the Eye on College Basketball podcast this week with Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish, you were talking about Nerlens Noel, and you said you see a little bit of Bill Russell in him, the way he plays the game. Can you elaborate that and how impressive you've been with Nerlens this season?
Listen, the first time I ever saw him play was, I believe, in between his freshman and sophomore year in high school, and grew up in Everett, Mass, which is about a half an hour from me. So I've seen him play so many times, and his body build, the way he blocks shots at the rim, he's so different. That's what I've tried to tell people over the last 6 months or so. He's not the same in terms of the way he blocks shots as Anthony Davis, but to me, he's just as effective. Probably more imposing because, again, the way he does it, it's just power. It's the way he gets off the ground so quickly. And, again, we saw that against Ole Miss down the stretch with 5 huge blocks, playing with 4 fouls. It was incredible. But, again, not surprising because this is a guy, again, that I still say is the best shot blocker in high school that I've ever seen, and I think he's going to break. People thought I was nuts. I think he's going to break Anthony Davis's record at the end of the day.
Wow. That kind of goes to the next question. Is he underappreciated nationally? Because here in Kentucky, people love him, of course, but it seems like he doesn't get nearly as much attention as like Anthony Davis did last year. Is he undervalued, do you think, nationally?
Well, the reason he doesn't get as much attention is because the team's not doing as well.
Right.
That's the biggest thing, is Anthony Davis had so much more around him that could, basically, if Anthony Davis took a chance, went after a guy weak side to block a shot, there'd be other guys that could cover. On this team, they're just not that good defensively. And that's Nerlens' biggest issue, I think, is, again, if he puts himself out of position, all those other guys, they're either not mature enough, they don't understand rotations quite as well as that team did a year ago. It's just a different situation where Nerlens, I think defensively, he's every bit as good as Anthony Davis. Offensively, obviously, they're nowhere close. And Nerlens will be the first to admit that. He did to me in the preseason when I sat down with him for a while. The bottom line is, again, he's got to work on that end of the court. He knows it. Anthony Davis got so much better offensively the second half of last season when he kind of pushed the envelope a little bit and understood, you know what, this team needs me to score.
Of course, Kentucky, they beat Mississippi on Tuesday, got a win over a ranked opponent. Looking at this team, obviously, that they had been on the bubble, and maybe they still are. How much, if any, did that win change your perception of this UK team?
Well, I think it changed it, again, because it was a road win in a hostile environment. I don't think Ole Miss is some great team. We had them ranked 26 last week. I think the AP had them at 16. They really haven't beaten a ton of great teams yet. But, again, it was a big win in that we hyped it up. Ole Miss, Marshall Henderson, all of that, and I think Kentucky had to come up with a win there, and they did. So I think they played well. We saw Poitras played better. Nerlens was terrific. Archie Goodwin showed more restraint in terms of making better decisions. Ryan Harrow did what he needs to do, which is just be solid. And I think, obviously, Wiltshire was great in that game as well. So I think now everything's kind of fallen into place for the most part, and I see this team now taking off a little bit, getting some wins. I'm not sure if they're going to beat Florida down in Gainesville, but I'm not sure they have to. I think they just have to hold, court at home, at Rupp, beat Missouri, beat Florida at home, and then they're gonna breeze in, and they'll breeze in on a high.
What do you think they can end up as a seed by the time the tournament comes? If they beat these teams they should, say split with Florida or beat Missouri, what's the ceiling for them? Is it a 6 seed, a 7 seed, or can they even get a 4 or 5?
Yeah, I think they can get all the way up to a 4 or 5 in this landscape of college basketball right now. If they win, I think if they beat Florida, Missouri at home with that Ole Miss win, I think they can get all the way up to that 4 or 5 line, probably 5. I'm not sure they can crack the 4, but maybe, again, right now, you look at it again, like I said, Ole Miss was, I think, number 15 or 16 in the AP rankings. Absolutely, Kentucky could swap places with Ole Miss at the end of the day. Just depends what else happens in some of those other leagues with, Mountain West. Does somebody emerge and take a top 4 line, whether it's San Diego State or UNLV go on a run or something like that, or Miami certainly in the ACC. Do they kind of sustain it right now? And what happens with Carolina and Duke? There's just so many unknowns, but I do think Kentucky has the opportunity to kind of get up on that maybe 5 line.
Well, Dallas Morning News today is reporting that one of your favorite people, Billy Gillispie, is going to be at the A&M Kentucky game on Saturday. Does that seem as strange to you as it does to all of us? It just seems weird that he would want to come to that game.
Man, if I didn't already have a commitment to go to Temple St. Joe's and do sideline reporting for CBS Sports Network, I'd change my flight. I'd go down to College Station and maybe have a beer, a cold one or two with Billy Clyde. That would be entertaining, wouldn't it? No, listen. Billy Gillispie is strange. I mean, that's the bottom line in all this. Nothing seems odd to me with what he would do. Again, you would think a guy like this would kind of take a year away and not be seen in public after everything he endured. But, he's Billy Clyde, and he beats to his own drum.
And before we let you go, Boston Celtics, of course, big news. Rajon Rondo, former Kentucky guy, out with a knee injury. How much does that change that team? And is this kind of the beginning of the end of the Celtics as we see them? And we moving into a new era that kind of built around Rondo, you think?
Listen, Rondo is a heck of a talent, unbelievably talented kid. But when the Celtics said at the beginning of the year that, and I think Garnett and Pierce even said, and I think everybody, the mantra was, hey, this is Rondo's team. And right when I heard that, I said, oh, no, this team is in major trouble. And again, it's not because of Rondo's skill set. Terrific talent, great passer when he wants to be, not as good a defender as what he was when he came into the league and had to prove himself with that. But you know what the problem is? Nobody follows his lead. He's a guy that, again, people don't want to play with. He was sent home from the Olympic team, from the trials, because, again, he's a loner. He's not a very likable kid. I wouldn't be surprised, and it sounds crazy, if the Celtics have a better record without Rondo in the lineup than they did with him.
Wow. Strong words. Appreciate it, Jeff. Always a good time having you on the show, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, TJ. Thanks for having me, man.